Evening, this is the meeting of the Police Accountability Board for Prince George's County, Maryland. Today's date is December 11th, 2024. Call the meeting to order at 6:43 p.m. I will go ahead and take the roll. If you attended the meeting virtual, just say present virtual. Person, just say present, please. Vice Chair Sanchez.
Present.
Thank you, sir. James. Present. Ms. Bryant. Spring.
Present.
Dr. Coleman.
Present virtually.
Jones. Melton.
Present.
O'Neill.
Present.
Britton.
I saw her name up here, but I think she's still connected to audio. Oh.
And I see you, Mrs. Ridley. Can you hear us okay? See you. Next up, the approval of the minutes from November 13th.
Mr. Chair,
I'm sorry.
can you, for purposes of minute, notate that I'm present virtually so it can be reflected in the minutes under staff and legal counsel, please? Thank you.
Council King is present but attending virtually.
Thank you.
Okay, the approval of the minutes. And everyone can have an opportunity to review the minutes from the meeting of the 13th. I want to make motions to approve the minutes from November 13th. Sorry, Ms. Franchi.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from November 13th.
Second. Motion to approve the minutes from November 13th, made by Mr. Melton, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. All in favor to approve the minutes from November 13th, 2024, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Minutes are approved. Sorry, my mic went out, so you guys can help with this. Wait a second. So just gonna keep playing. Okay. Great. Okay, we're back. Minutes are approved. Thank you. Next agenda item, reports, no updates, whole business annual report. So the staff sent out an email, I believe it may have been Monday, asking for, no, I'm sorry, it may have been Thursday of last week, asking for input. Anybody that had anything to submit for the annual report. But we have been talking about it, and I asked people to go ahead and sign up for areas and parts of the annual report that they wanted to be responsible. So whatever we got, I know we got a few back from some people, but not everybody. And so what I asked the staff to do was to put together what we had and some data points that we had about the complaints and the LEAs. So I asked them to put that together so that we can take a look at that and potentially move forward on adding whatever. I think that there were a couple of other members that had put something in there. I'm not sure if it's in this document. question to the staff, is it the additions that the board members made, are they in this document by chance? No, okay, okay, all right, thank you. So we have one thing from Mr. James about the recommendations that we'll be adding to the annual report. Did anyone have anything else that they wanted to add? I know Dr. Coleman was working on the data, I believe. Oh, there you go. I'm looking all around and you're right there at the top. Thank you. Okay, okay, cool. So I was speaking with the staff and we want to have a cutoff date. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was it Monday? Okay, 17th of December. What day is that? Okay, by Tuesday. Is that doable from everyone? Okay,
You know, stubborn, so it's not like you look at it, work.
yes, I believe, yes. Yeah. Yeah. But moving forward, I had a conversation with the staff and I thought, even coming up on the 12,000, that it was important to make the report, comprehensive for people to read, for the citizens to be able to read. I thought the most important thing may be the data. You gotta do a better job. Why not just put them on, like, make it feel like I'm in a press conference. Okay, sorry again, but I thought that the most important thing for the data, the report will be, a specific target area would be the data that, a lot of people in the citizens would be, concerned about. And I think that, we have some data points here that is broken down. Can everyone take a look at it? Are you able to review it? Okay. And so. If you're looking at it, if you have any questions, let's talk about it then. So I believe. This may be. It's our last meeting. Yep. Yeah, when Springs, you're gonna miss you. You know how, you're not going anywhere, just gonna miss a couple of things, but,
Mr. Chair, I actually, have a comment about the data, if I could just jump right in.
yes, ma'am.
Well, so one of the, data points that aren't here, but that I am working on is what we included last year, what, the allegations against the officers. So I have those data, and so I'm, working on the analysis, with that, as well as what, you see in the draft here. So I just wanted to make sure that, the board knew that those will also be included in the report.
Okay, great. And so you'll be able to have that over to the staff to put it all together by the 17th, correct?
Yes.
Great, thank you so much. Did anybody have anything else that they were inputting into the report? Yes, sir. Okay.
I was doing the summary of training and law enforcement engagement.
Okay, and that 17th is doable for you too? Okay.
I was gonna say, I had community outreach, but I think they did a great job. So I don't even know.
Okay.
Seriously.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, wonderful.
Very comprehensive list.
Right.
All right, cool. And did you see the pictures too? You okay with the pictures? I see you a star. Photograph with it. So, okay, so the community outreach piece is, we're satisfied with that.
Yeah, I'm satisfied.
Well, I was just gonna say, Mr. O'Neill said he's satisfied with it. Does anybody have any, thoughts or input when they look at the, community outreach portion of it? Okay. Yes, sir.
Deadline actually December 31st, when it's the actual deadline.
31st, yes, Yes, sir, December 31st. Data, okay, training, Mr. Melton.
Actually, something else that we do.
So is that doable to the staff? Want to make sure that it is doable by the 17th, we'll be good, you'll be able to have that out, be able to review it, and then we'll be able to approve it and send it out. Right, right. Right.
You're not having meetings, what you're saying.
Right, but as long as we have the parts done and put together and we can, once we get it, because this is what this is about. If you have something to input in there, make sure we look at it. And by the 17th, we have an opportunity to review what was, what you guys had put in there that was submitted to you. At this point, and if everybody agrees, then we can just say yes. If there's anything that we need to change, I think we should have it done by that day. So any changes or concerns, I think if by the 17th, we need to look at it and make sure that we respond with any changes the same day, the 17th. So that's doable. Okay.
And I think that we're.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, just to make sure that everybody, like Mr. Melton said, we're not being redundant. So, whenever that's done, if we can go ahead and make sure that everybody has an opportunity to review.
It's Tuesday, the 17th.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any thoughts? Because, so I know Dr. Coleman is going to do a great job with the data. I think that that's going to be one of the most important pieces of this to reflect, to take a look at some of the data and the reporting that we've gotten in, just to send out to the community and to the people that are concerned about that, give them a snapshot of where we are. One of the things I think that I'm going to ask for, from ACC may be, some of the data with the dispositions that the Administrative Charging Committee made versus the decisions that the administrative hearing decided, see if there were any changes into that, and to put that data in there as well, so we can take a look at that, report out on that as well. If that's okay, anybody have any objections to that? Mr. Vice Chair, you have anything you want to add, sir? Mike, and it's not because I'm a brat. Say that. Right. Ms. Rose, we're sorry.
Because of your planning. So it's not because of your planning. Wouldn't say no name.
Where you see that, Mr.?
And it's not because of my.
Oh, okay, well, it was big, yeah. Yeah. Didn't pick it up. It's right, it's not because of my brain. Okay, so we'll get the HB data. Anything else? I mean, now's the time. Well, now definitely is the time. Bye. Okay. Okay. I know the holidays have us relaxed, but for the online Council Camp and Dr. Coleman is really the members that are on. Did you have an opportunity to take a look at it? If not, we'll make sure that you get a copy.
Thank
Okay.
you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. And I know that we do have some guests, and I'll come back to you in a second. And my apologies for reason past that. Thank you for signing in. So. Okay, so we're now, at this time, I'll go ahead for those, I know we have some guests, I see, is that Chief Collington? That you, sir? Okay,
Yes, sir, that's me.
okay, you know, I did not know your first name was Tyrone, I thought it was Chief. I've never known, okay. Call Tyrone for real, Chief Collington. Okay.
That's right, that's right.
How are you? Thank you for signing in. Is there anything you'd like to say? And always thank you.
No, I just want to say as we close out this year that I'm abundantly grateful for the support and collaboration that we've had over the year. I think a lot of work has been done, and I'm looking forward to continuing this partnership into 2025.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any other guests that are online that would like to introduce themselves? Or represent the law enforcement agency? Anyone else online who represents a law enforcement agency that would like to say hello or introduce themselves?
This is Dave Rice, Chief Rice of New Carrollton. Just wanted to echo what my friend Chief Collington said. I want everybody to have a wonderful, wonderful holiday.
Thank you, Chief Rice. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you. That- Go back to this annual report. Ms. Springs and go around. Anything, man?
No.
Sure? Months. Other than, so are you going to have anything that you'd like to input? Looking at it, or you think, okay? Mr. Melton, I know that you said you were going to do the data. I'm sorry, the summary of the training, any other?
Law enforcement every day, summer.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Sanchez? Think so?
No, I mean, I think last year there was a letter from you, the citizens, in the report.
Yes.
So, I mean, if you have time to do that, I think that's always good to have.
Absolutely, yeah, I will do that, and make sure I send out that Tuesday.
Deadline is 17 for everybody to get it to evidence.
Correct,
Then she's gonna put it together, just a go after that. No changes after that.
correct,
But she would send us a copy before she's just.
Yes,
send it out
yeah,
just for us to look at.
exactly, let's make sure that we are in agreement that this is the document that we're going to be forwarding, as the official.
You gonna probably do that with Christmas Eve.
Probably the day after. I'm just,
I'm kidding.
Must be getting back to communicate.
No, just
anything else other than the community outreach, Mr. O'Neill?
right now.
Okay. James?
Oh,
I'll circle back on recommendations. I think we made some recommendations earlier this year, but I don't have a closeout or a resolution of those. So
On the ones that we get on the recommendation, I know that there was one that we were thinking about, and I can't recall which one it was, but it's a total of 11, whittled it down to 7, and then there was, concern about 1. So those, recommendations, do you have them up by chance?
I was sorting through to find it. No,
You don't?
short answer is no, I don't.
Okay,
And I was trying to find that to make sure it was in alignment.
so, if I find it, anybody can find it, I'm sorry, I come to you and then somebody has something to say, I'll make sure that I send that out to you, so you can add that with your portion. Somebody online had a question, or was going to say something?
I did, and I didn't know the appropriate. I had a legislative question. If you would just let me know at what point I could ask that question.
Okay, Mr. James, once he's done. Was that it, Mr. James?
That's it for me.
Okay, yes, yes, ma'am. Once again.
I just want to know there was on December 10th, I think I may have referenced it before, the legislative bill hearing for local bills. Wanted to know whether or not we participated in that, and whether or not we were going to PAB was going to make any recommendations with respect to any kind of legislation. I think you all recall that Delegate Kim Taylor had sent us some stuff previously and then subsequently asked us whether or not there was any changes or any recommendations. I don't think that anything got to her, but I did want to know if we were going to get a report from that December 10th legislative meeting, since it was dealing with local bills that were going to the state.
Oh, okay, local bills going to the state, like you said,
This,
go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
now, is this, you're talking about a meeting of the Prince George's delegation getting community input about recommendations for legislation? Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
is there regular bill hearing that they have prior to the General Assembly coming in January? Yes, sir.
So that was
It
last
was on
week.
the 10th. It was on December 10th, yesterday.
That's right. That's right.
I believe it was yesterday.
Yep.
But I know we have been talking about, our policy, opportunities for policy, if there were any kind of recommendations, and the very least to know whether or not anything on the public safety front was, or anything that could be of note for the PAB was discussed at that meeting. And if we could have get a report. But if there's anything that's going to happen, I think legislators would need to know so that it could get in the mix sooner rather than later.
Agreed. I think that we probably would be able to get the link to review that. Sure. No, technical.
I'm sorry, I can at least send a link to, I think I have the link, the original link for those who might have wanted to speak. I can send that to you, Mr. Chair, to send to whomever you think appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so you're somehow thinking that those things were in the seals.
January 10th or something like that?
It was December 10th, if you were, yesterday, last night at the community college.
Right, I think it's the 8th.
It's the 8th.
January 8th. So, and now I'll come back. Thank you for that, Council Cam. I'm sorry, Dr. Coleman. Did you have anything other than your data that you wanted to add to the annual report? Want to talk about?
No, not at this time, unless there's, anything that's remaining that someone hasn't been assigned to, I'd be happy to help.
Mrs. Ridley?
Yes.
Yeah, feedback. I know, like big studio. So, is there anything on the annual report that you'd like to have added or you want to talk about now? You have an opportunity to review it.
No. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. It's my mic.
Okay.
Yes, I don't need, I'm using the outside voice. Yeah. Uh, Okay, so. Okay, no, Mr. Jones. Okay, we'll make sure that we send that to them, y'all. I'll reach out to them and see if they have any questions. I actually asked the staff to put just the annual report and then, because I thought that it would take more time than this to discuss it, but I guess this is a good thing. So if anybody has anything else that they'd like to discuss in the interim right now, I think this is an opportunity to say will be our last official in-person meeting of the year. So, we have anything we want to talk about? I have, met with, the staff, and we are going to, I asked if, we can work in unison, to make sure that at the community outreach events, that we have a calendar established going into the beginning of the year. So we'll know that we have that calendar, and then we'll ask, maybe 2 members to go to different sections, but we'll make sure that those, community events are close to where the member lives. If that helps. So we can always have 2 people there. We don't always have to ask the staff to go. We can just let them know once we come back. I think that there was a form that we would fill out, so we can submit that. But I think that if we have a calendar, of events moving forward, it'll be great for the community. We'll have more participation, and we can put that out. Because we're doing really good with the, Chiefs meeting. And I think it's important to, reach out to, homeowner associations, and any community events, and even schools, to bring the information to them. Okay, musical mics. So does anybody have any thoughts on how we would do, community outreach portion for next year? Other than having the calendar?
The other thing we have to do is we have to complete our, for better word, our PowerPoint presentation. That if we go to one and they want us to do a presentation, we can use that PowerPoint presentation to present to them.
The same one.
The same one.
Okay.
Because I know they might not have as many in the year. I know a couple of delegates over there that, but the safety town hall meetings, they had achieved maybe somebody else's stations. We need to have something that, you know, you got to bring out laptop. We just need to read that piece, and everybody have a copy. So when you like to say they call, say something for Washington, I just go down there and do that.
Okay.
So we just need to talk about on different issues. Yes.
So the message will be consistent. So everybody heard what Mr. O'Neill said? Okay, so I think that is a great idea. You know, we had, some that we had before, but what we'll do is the very next meeting, we'll put that on the agenda as well as the rules and procedures. We'll take a look at it. I had a slideshow presentation that I had put together, and some of the ones that, Mrs. Bryan had put together. So I merged 2. So what I'll do is I'll bring both of them, and then we can take a look at it and decide, which one we want to use moving forward. And it can always change, but we'll just make sure that we agree on the changes, so that everybody have the same presentation.
Yeah, because I think one of the things we have to change that section, like data section. Last, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
You gotta update that section. So,
Yeah, that'll probably be the only section that we update, when we go to the different meetings. It'll be, so yeah. So that slideshow presentation for the community meeting. Does anybody know of any community, or community, thank you, meetings or programs of outreach that they want to, add off the top of their head, thinking of? So this is one of the most agreeable crowds I've ever been in. So, and this is just something to throw out there. I think that it's important too that, in our purview, responsible for the citizens, our children are citizens as well. So I think it's important to get into the school, to speak to them, to take some questions, some concerns, and maybe even have a town hall with some of the schools and the kids. Because we know that throughout the nation, that the crime is high with children. So we want to make sure that, they understand the process as well, and not being afraid. And I think what was important to know, Vice and I talked about before, is that, also our Spanish speaking citizens, we want to make sure that this is a safe space for them. They understand their rights and that they're protected by this process as well. So, Vice Chair, I know that you can probably take a look at the slides and you can translate them, right? Okay. So I think that anything like that, I think, if you and Mr. Jones can work with that, those Spanish-speaking residents, I think that would be great. Because we want to make sure that they feel protected too. One of the things I was going to do is try to look at the amount of, Spanish-speaking residents to see how many cases have been logged. Not logged, how many complaints have been made against the police department with the Spanish-speaking residents, just to make sure that they feel safe in the process. Anything else? Come on, Mr. Springs, you always make good ideas. What? You got to be kidding me.
Kelvin,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
oh, I got everybody's attention. Let me ask you a question, and this might be for Marva Joe. The new Maryland laws that went in effect in July, for instance, like the reforming of the state's juvenile justice system. Number two, they created a state 988 number for mental health crisis. And then number three, one of them was ban the use of a vape while indoors in transit or at workplace. How would we find out this stuff? One of us would have to do what?
Well, I think, well,
Yeah, one last thing, Marvin, and then maybe you can answer. And then the Surgeon General declared gun violence as a public health crisis. And I have additional information, the data to go with that. But I mean, how would we know this, or do we need to know?
I have thoughts, but I'll defer to the chair and vice chair unless I do know how, but
Oh, the wonderful Miss O'Kenny has an update. Did you need my?
No, I'll just tell
You said, okay.
So actually, the program administrator's in here, but it was supposed to be this meeting, but at the beginning of the year, she moved it.
can they talk, whoever's speaking,
I
can't hear them on the Zoom?
That's just not here.
Can everybody hear? So. Now his microphone is in. So the update is that at this board meeting, but it was now switched to the next board meeting, there was going to be an update made to the board about all the laws that were passed that will, the juvenile justice, including juvenile justice laws, but all the public safety laws that will impact your board and Prince George's County. It's pretty thick, so I was going to forward it to everybody, and then we would take the particular laws that you all were interested in, and then I would give a briefing on it. But I will forward you the document. Now, so if people want it right now, I have it on my laptop, and I can forward it to you right away so that you can actually look at it. It's a briefing of each particular one. And then if you are interested in getting in-depth in any one of them, then I can do an in-depth on that at our next meeting, so you all just let me know.
Okay, thank you. Did you get that, Mrs. Brittany?
I do. I was just wondering when we was gonna get it, because like one of the things I recently just learned, I didn't know that you can file a police report online.
I did want to say, Mr. Chair, that some of it, not sure how, if anything is going to impact the ability of this board to make recommendations, probably want it sooner rather than later because the General Assembly starts in January. And as you all know, the prep work for that started last year, but in earnest, I would say September and October. So if there were any recommendations based on what happened to Ms. Ridley's point last year, or any concerns based on what happened, you would probably need to get it in sooner rather than later.
Okay, okay. And, Ms. O'Gany did say that she would send that out, so we can take a look at that, so she'll send that out. Sending it now. So, okay, so we'll have that. Thank you for the update. Dr. Coleman, if I get that data about the Spanish-speaking citizens, I'll make sure that I send that over to you. I mean, you can take that, okay. Something else that I said as far as the data. But any data that I do get, I'll make sure that I send it to you and it have a title on them, okay? You make it all look nice and pretty and everything like that. Anything from anybody else? So, okay, let me back up. I know we talked about the calendar for next year. We're also going to, at next year's date time. I don't know how people feel about it, but whatever section that you worked on for the annual report. I think that if we do a mid-year update of the sections that people were responsible for, would like to be responsible for, we should try to push that to sometime where, like June 1st, take a look at it and make sure that it's a mid-year, not to publish a mid-year annual report, but just to make sure that we're on track. So we won't be here again, hoping that we have some type of things to put together for you. We want to make sure that it's comprehensive. And I do believe that we will have a robust case handling system. So those are some of the things that I know that we want to talk about as well, as far as a person being able to follow their case and getting updates about that. I think that's something that we can probably talk to somebody about putting together. And I know that I heard that from I think I was speaking with the IG. He had mentioned that they were working on a case handling system. I believe that we have that on the phone. They'll give me a nod. Okay, so yes, we still work. Okay, thank you. So they're still working on that, but such a big system, and so we want to make sure that we get it right. And also, I know that because of FY 25, we want to make sure that we're fiscally responsible and doing our part as a board. So we want to make sure that we limit our meetings to 2 hours to be so that we can try to condense what we have to do. I think again, I've said we need to be more efficient with the time that we have, but making sure that we keep the meetings to 2 hours. And also, whenever we go out for the community event, to submit that form when we speak to them, because we want to make sure that those events don't go past 2 hours as well. So we want to make sure that we have a projected budget of time that we will submit for each member. We need to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible as well. So I think keeping the meetings to 2 hours will know. And I know that it was a suggestion by Mrs. Bryant a few meetings ago that we can look at maybe potentially going to once a month. But I think once we come back in January, maybe February, we'll decide that collectively as a board, if that's something that we want to do and move forward to vote on. Anything else, Mrs. Spring? Because I'm just picking.
Yeah. Kelvin, I just have one other thing. Did you get my comments that I made to the rules and procedure document that Tamika and Dr. Coleman was working on?
I probably did, and you sent it to them as well, correct?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So they are including that. So,
Okay.
So again, when we come back in January, we'll pick up where we left off with the rules and procedures. And
Okay.
not the next meeting, when that's on the agenda, we'll be moving forward with that document. They've done a fantastic job, probably for what, maybe 80 hours. So we'll be ready to move forward. Anything else? I know Christmas is coming back. And this what happened. Staff, do you have anything, Ms. Skinner? Again, thank you for that update. Staff, I do the date time. That means no, nothing? No. Vice Chair Sanchez made sure that he was working, right? Well,
One final thing, just, speaking to Tangi, if anyone wants to get their ride along in before the end of the year, still have time, but you gotta get the paperwork to her by the end of this week. And I think you'll be able to get it before the end of the week. So if anyone still wants to go for one last ride, this week is your deadline. So get the stuff in by Friday to Miss Allen. Or tell her you're interested, so she can send you the application and get that back to her by Friday.
how many of us have had private? Oh, did you talk about yours, Mr. Melvin? Oh,
No,
here you go, sir.
all right, so I did 2 ride-alongs. The last 2 that I did took a little bit of a non-traditional approach. I thought I'd take the liberty to look into some units that are a little non-traditional, since I feel like as, you know, a BAB, we should really kind of like leave no stones unturned and get perspective from other units. So I reached out to the Marine unit and the aviation unit in College Park for PG County. And the Marine unit is based out of National Harbor. And so the aviation unit was really cool. They, you know, made an invitation that I could go up, or any of us could go up in a helicopter, but it was too windy that day. And I was a little nervous about going up. It was so windy anyway, but so I elected not to do that. But I got a tour, and just had a lot of really insightful conversations with that group. Very technically proficient group, and so very impressed with their knowledge and experience. And as you can imagine, they have a lot of, and within their purview, they have a lot of just unique challenges with doing aviation and a helicopter. But to that end, they are very effective. They have a lot of cases that are documented in video that they were showing me in their conference room. So I was able to see that they are able to do surveillance. They can do night surveillance where you can see through night vision, and, you know, the perpetrators have no idea that they're up there being watched in video camera. Like, they have no idea that the helicopter is watching and do stuff.
So they can't hear it.
I don't think so. And then that was one of the things they talked about, was that the helicopter that they picked to purchase is particularly quiet. It doesn't have a rear rudder. So it's a particular type of helicopter. So it does, because of a noise reduction mandate on the county, they had to pick something like that. So with Andrews and all the other aviation, they wanted to keep the aviation program pretty quiet. So it was a really cool experience. Marine unit as well gave me a tour, took me around the different waterways that they surveilled, and just kind of broke down sort of their role in law enforcement and what they deal with. One of the common themes that I noticed that I shared with you all in the Chiefs meeting is that the thing that they like to talk to me about is the officer's perception of police accountability and the board. And what I thought was interesting is that a lot of what they believe is critical of policing isn't actually based on the data. It's a lot of perceptions on the national stage of how policing and how police are being held accountable. And I think that's something for us to keep in mind, particularly as we engage with the chiefs, is making sure that we also make the officers aware that this process is working and it's not slanted against them. There aren't a lot of officers being accused and then also disciplined for stuff that they didn't do, but there is a perception out there, and I think that is impacting policing in the sense that police are more reluctant to do the things they used to do. So the more I believe that we can create confidence in this process, perhaps more officers will feel more confident that, okay, I can be a good police officer. And even though I might get a complaint, the process is going to work in my favor if I didn't do anything.
So I have a question. What type of situational call would the helicopter be used for? Did they say anything like that?
Yeah, so, I can't remember the exact, but they said that they can be in the air and over like a particular part of the county in like 15 minutes. So like,
Anyway,
so chase is, if you have like a standoff and they have someone running in the woods and, you know, officers could use some assistance in finding them and just seeing where they are.
okay,
There's video cases where they've shown that they're up there, they can see through infrared and everything, they can see who and where the person is, they can generally see even weapons and use of weapons far better than police officers sometimes on the ground.
okay,
Carjackings, things like that, where it's maybe discouraged to chase someone, the helicopter doesn't have those restrictions.
okay.
So they can just basically keep tabs on a particular car, suspects, and, you know, not have to rely on putting the citizens at danger.
Okay, thank you. So, one other thing, what do you think about all of us? That could be a community event that we host with maybe school. To have the aviation unit, you know, come have the helicopter there. I think we went to a place in National Night Out. I think they had a helicopter leave in one of the places that I went to. But I think that would be something that the kids would find interesting as well. So you think that would be a community outreach event that you could probably put together since you have that relationship?
I mean, I think that's
You and
kind of contingent on the unit.
Right,
like,
what they
kinda
have going on.
Yeah, like how they feel about it.
Okay,
Um,
not for the children to ride. But
Right,
so
right.
they can
Yeah.
give an overview, right?
Yeah. But it is a small group.
Okay.
The other, I think, significant thing is that they were approved for a drone program as well, which is run out of there, and they showed me that they have a drone unit vehicle where they have suitcases or briefcases
Mhm.
with the drones in them.
Okay,
And apparently the paperwork is very elaborate so that they have to, anytime they're running drone programs in the DC area
Right.
because of Homeland Security, they have to be very meticulous in paperwork, but they are willing to do it because they find value and are able to use those as well. And they just talked about how they have to work in concert, with all the other agencies in the area,
okay,
work through jurisdiction with, you know, Virginia. One thing I learned that I didn't know is that there is no jurisdiction in the waterways.
oh,
So basically, if a call goes out, someone needs help, somebody fell off a boat, they were drinking, whatever, whoever gets there first can handle.
oh, really?
So all the units will just talk or whatever and get there. Because I think you had the Northern Virginia counties,
Mhm.
if they have a unit, and then you have DC as well. So whoever can get there. I thought it was also good that both of those units are particularly cautious about being frugal and, you know, making sure that they're utilizing the resources that they have, which could be slim, but they try to, they try to make sure that they're not, you know, overspending.
Okay, so my last question is, can they see through the home?
No,
Okay,
no.
then I'm good.
And that is why the drone paperwork is so tedious, and because there is a lot of concern about public privacy,
Right,
not even for the intention of looking in, but even if you did it by accident, like say you're
Yeah.
following a perpetrator, but you incidentally see through my window, obviously citizens would like it. So there's just a lot of apparently conversation about drone programs and things like that, having something
okay.
with the ability, like where can you go, what can you look for?
So, yeah, I think the drone program is definitely will help with the crime. Sure, so, and I know that it's really difficult in this area because we're so close to, and like you said, Homeland Security, the airport and things like that, so. Yeah, that's interesting. I think I want to do that. Miss Allen, you'll be getting my request form for that.
Lafayette, let me ask a question. It's my understanding that the drones don't engage in facial recognition.
Yeah, I'm not sure about what capabilities they have for that.
Okay,
I got the impression that it is again, it's gonna be a drone is more mobile and can get closer to, in places that perhaps a helicopter couldn't. But also drones can be used inside buildings. Let's say you had someone that was an active shooter. A drone could effectively be used to go through the hallways. So I think there's more versatility with the program, but they didn't explain many of their restrictions, rules, and legislation about what they can and can't do.
No, I was thinking, I'm going back to what you said about the offices. And we might need to do them account when some of them FOP, because their concerns, when we are looking at the case, they had already made fractions. It's not that we are making it fractions, then looking over and deciding what penalty. You know what I mean? That's what, and I don't think the officers understand that. So, I mean, they're scared of us, whatever, but we're not the one. We're following up after they made the infraction. You know,
So I think one of the biggest gaps in understanding that I noticed is that they believe like the increase in complaints and the perception of the public that they're all doing something wrong equates to them sort of being guilty. And so I was explaining to them, sure, the process is somewhat going to probably have, an influx of people who maybe do have privilege complaints just to retaliate against officers because of the climate against policing. I said, but ultimately the system and the discipline matrix and all of that dictates a lot of these things that we're not seeing that pan out where,
right, because I mean, you would have to add nobody to work. We would have to add maybe a slide to say before this board put together, we had these many things. Not that much of an increase. I don't know. I'm just saying from 2017, compared to now to 2022 when we started, you know what I mean? But the perception is that, I mean, just listen to what you're saying, what other people are saying, is that we're the ones who made, is the first tier of the infraction, them getting the infraction. We're not, we're the last.
Yeah, and I definitely think hearing from the chiefs, they have a very good understanding of the process and sort of how it's playing out. But I think just talking to some of the ride-along officers that are on the ground, there's a little bit of a disconnect. And I think their understanding is different. They think that they're at a severe disadvantage for some reason and that this stuff is going to work against them. And that there's just a different level of trust in the system.
And maybe that's what we have to. Chiefs has to be more and explain to the troops, you know what I mean?
Exactly, because I think when I explained to them, I said, we're not seeing that. I haven't looked at every case, but I said in the cases that we looked at, oftentimes the discipline that is substantiated for things that really happen. It's not like somebody saw something on camera and then that basically got an officer in trouble. The process is actually going through and looking at all the evidence, and a lot of stuff is not sustained. If it is frivolous, somebody can't just make a claim against you and all of a sudden you get in trouble.
And that might be jumping in line then, You might have to turn for police, have a meet with some of the rank and file officers to have a presentation where we can go back and forth, to tell them that, you know what I mean? So, because, I mean, what it is like I said, we're not the first line to make the infraction. We're not going and saying, you did that. We're basically the last line. They got to understand it.
I think one of the things that I found is that what they may be apprehensive about is that if a complaint is filed against a police officer and it is bogus, that they may be exonerated or maybe unfounded, it still stays in their personnel file, right? So I think that so for an example, if a citizen complained of racial profile over and over and over again, if it stays in the police officer's file, even though it was exonerated and unfounded, perception could be that he is. And so I think that that's something that we should look at as well. Because we want to make sure that the office, that it's balanced, that it's fair, and I think that that's something that we can talk about. Well, because if, in my opinion, if it's unfounded, then I think that it should be, I don't think that it should stay on the officer's file if it did not happen, if there's video evidence and it was determined that it did not happen. And I think that that probably makes them apprehensive as well. I can do all of the things right, but maybe just a minor traffic stop. Then I get a complaint filed against me, alleged against me, and it just stays in my file and it's public record. So I think that that's part of concern. So I know one of the things that we're talking about on the charge committee side is that when we find that complaint not to be true in any form, and that the officer acted within policy, that they can receive a letter of commendation to go along with that complaint to make sure. Those are some of the things that I think that probably the police officers feel like that we're just going to be attacked. But
One of the other things that I heard more than once that bothered me was that the increase in police accountability and the measures and the legislation is sort of contributing to people not wanting to be policing. It's making it harder to prove it. And I kind of categorically disagree with that. I think people see policing differently because of video of bad apples doing things.
Right.
Which then makes the general public have a lack of appreciation and respect for law enforcement, which then makes people be like, I don't want to be a police officer and go through that.
right,
And so, again, it's one of those things where I think that was the issue. And I think as citizens grow and have more trust and policing and law enforcement, I think that could change. But I think, again, it's going to take time because there's just, again, a lot more measures in place now that weren't in the past. And so, with this proliferation of video that is out there, every time a bad apple does something, it just works against
right.
the public.
We're gonna have, the new administration coming in, we look at it. Yes, we're gonna have some more complaints because I don't know if you saw where the new immigrations are.
Yeah.
But basically, he's saying he's gonna start in Chicago if the mayor don't agree with me. He's gonna bring charges against something. I say that to say that they're trying to say, basically, they're gonna change it where, what do they call it? DC and other places where the police is not gonna assist them, what do we call it? Sanctuary. They're saying doing the opposite of that. So, and then what he's asked, if your police don't cooperate with me, he's gonna bring you up on charges. County exec, the police department, you know what I mean? So you're gonna have increase. I mean, just on the immigration side, maybe no, but I'm just saying, because they're saying if I'm a naturalized citizen, my cousin's in my house, all y'all going out, all y'all gonna get locked up with handcuffs. So you're gonna have complaints on that, even though it's federal government that told the Prince George police to come in. So we got some dynamics coming up, in next year or two.
That's all you said again. Immigration czar.
Yeah.
Anyone else had to ride along and want to talk about? That was really the thing.
I had a ride along a month or so ago, and I think I might have discussed it already.
Did you?
I wrote a
What
report.
department?
Prince
Prince George?
George, of course, yeah, Prince George's Police Department, the it's in Kentland area.
Okay, man. What time? Like what shift?
I took the evening shift from 5 to 12.
Okay, 5 to 12, did you have it? 5 to 12, you did the whole 7 hours?
They do 6 to 12.
Wow, okay. Okay. So what did you experience?
Oh, okay, so, it was a young officer.
Right.
He's a rookie. I mean, first, he's only been sworn in since January. This
This
is, yes. And he had gone through like the Pioneer program, and he always wanted to be a cop because he liked high-speed chases. But, he had worked at the jail as a correction officer, and then he morphed over into the police department training. And he had a lot of good comments about them undergoing training for how to do issue resolution rather than escalation, de-escalation. is what I was gonna say. Most of the, and he did mention that thing about it's hard for them to get new recruits. But his story was because of the violence on TV and the way cops do things, and the violence rather in the videos that they see. That's what he was saying. It wasn't that that discourages people. They just don't want to stop that. But the kinds of cases that we got were mostly help the community. There was a homeless person sleeping in the laundry room of an apartment building, and the officer removed him, but there's no alternative. You know, they don't have to. Yeah, it's like, where do homeless people go when it's 30 degrees outside? And so that was, I think, one of my recommendations. They have a list of resources so they can say, okay, you can't stay here in this public place, but here's someplace you can go. That, and then there were just your regular, my son just got out of jail, I want him to leave my house kind of things, or domestic issues.
That's right.
Yeah, and he also mentioned, what I did notice, there was a holdup. A guy was standing outside his apartment building smoking a cigarette. A young man came with a gun and demanded his jacket. And so they tried to pursue him, but he got lost in the sauce somewhere. And I mean, there were like 12 police officers on site. They do back each other up. They rarely, if one officer comes, because they ride alone, if one officer comes, then they wait for the backup to come before they yeah, which makes sense to me. So they searched the area, but the issue was that it was a young man, and he was just roaming the area with a weapon to take somebody's jacket. That was really disheartening. The other issue was I don't recall. It was a couple months ago. But in general, I think they did. The other thing was they don't do traffic stops necessarily unless, things are quiet. You know what I mean? They don't just go out looking for people to stop. And if they have somebody who has, say, hijacked a car, they're not allowed to do high-speed chases. And I don't know if you talked about that already. They're not allowed to do that. It's public safety. And so they just have to let them go. And they're also very concerned about the issue of they arrest somebody, especially a young person, with a gun even, and before they get back on the streets, the guy's already out of jail. Yeah. And so that's something, I mean, I know there's been legislation, there's been a lot of discussion about it. I'm just not sure what the right answer is. But in one of my, I guess it was when you and I went to that listening session, there are places where young people can go and be held accountable, and I don't say charge them with a crime and put them in prison, but they need to have their, as the chief says, have their mobility restricted for some time. Because that doesn't make sense that you could go out and do the same thing over and over again with no repercussions.
I think earlier, I think somebody was talking about some legislation reforming the juvenile code.
Yeah.
Because what they were saying, the chief was saying, is that they can lock them up. Once they get to the judge, under the law, he put them back on the street the next day.
Right. But there is a juvenile, what was it? Well, I forget the name of of the place. But there's a place where young people go, minors, juveniles, it's a center where they go to school, they get wraparound services, they get all this. He said there was only like 4 or 5 people there.
In the county.
Oh,
So,
it's a
Chapel-
high school.
Chapel-
No, you're not talking about Cheltenham.
Cheltenham,
Cheltenham has the detention center.
Right.
And what it housed like 90 people,
but there were only,
4 people there because they let them back the next day, even though they put a pistol at my head, took my car and everything, get back to the mama who had him out, let me out 3 or 4 in the morning. Because it's under the juvenile law. By the state, they have to go by that.
Yeah.
They just
and
can't.
let's have a review again.
Yeah, right.
But
There's
this
a
is-
change that's
Well,
coming.
yeah.
They already made a change.
Yeah.
They made a change for juveniles with weapons, so,
Yeah,
so they treat them differently than they would treat.
yeah,
But that doesn't take effect until January.
but still.
And if I could just jump in and clarify too, it's if they're probably referring to younger children, because some of the changes to the juvenile code really focused on lowering the threshold for more violent crimes for younger children. So if they're making statements that, all kids that are, have guns or that are uh, are committing, violent crimes, the changes in the laws really focused on lowering the age where they can prosecute younger youth for more serious offenses. And so there is sort of a spectrum there of, who gets detained and confined and who doesn't. And so I think we need to sort of be careful when we make, and I know their perception is that a lot of these kids, because it is a small amount, what the data say is that about 5 to 7% of young people commit violent crimes where 95% don't. But that's not the narrative that we hear. And so it's probably true because they patrol those same communities, is that they see the same young people a lot. But I think the changes to the juvenile code and some of those things may alleviate some of that, hopefully, if those kids can continue to get services. So just wanted to sort of clarify some of the changes to the juvenile law.
To add on what you were saying, it's the same kids too that keep repeating. Of those, the 5 to 7% that do it are the ones that keep doing it.
Yeah.
So if we can sort of try to restrain them, but that's like beyond our pay grade right now.
I know also, you were mentioning, and I think that one of the things that we can suggest, the recommendations for the officers to have some type of phone numbers.
Right.
For assistance for homeless people.
Right.
People
Resources, period,
who-
or
whatever may be in a crisis and things like that. So I think that's something that we can look at, because like you said, if somebody calls the police on a person who's just trying to stay warm in the building, and the police also makes them leave, like at what point do we help them?
And sometimes, I know at work, we encounter a lot. And you tell them, like, here's this resource, and they don't want to go because those places are unsafe, their stuff gets stolen.
Wow.
There's sexual assault that occurs in those places sometimes. Sometimes they feel safer being out on the street than it is in the center. So-
Yeah, we
so
don't have
there's-
as many as
Wow.
DC has,
oh God, they got camps.
So that's why, because they don't
Because if
feel
you
safe.
go to a
in those-
library, they got a back lot. The one on Oxon Hill Road. Because they have a old book drop off box. There'll be you go like 6 in 1 hill. Oh, one guy here with all his blankets.
Wow.
Somebody over there, you know. Then you got the officer sitting in the parking lot. Taking his nap, you know what I mean?
I apologize for being late. I was at a different function, but I take it that we're not voting.
No, man. And we'll make sure that you put all of the documents for the game.
I think I got the email. Yes. Now, with regard to the report, we discussed that at all?
Yep.
How we're gonna move forward?
Yeah, so anything that you have, that you want to include in the annual report, you might have to send over by the 17th.
Okay, is there a repository of like, when we do our reports, et cetera, is there a repository where we can go and review them?
So I don't think, I don't know if the staff has that, but I mean, I think that we have a report that was emailed to all of us from last year. We can just take a look at that.
No, what what I mean is like when he went on his police visit.
Oh, you mean those type?
Or we did that,
Yeah,
community
we
event,
was
is
supposed to
there,
do
are
it.
they
We did
kept
a
in
report.
place?
Oh.
Isn't that right?
They're in our team policy.
Yeah. You know
As
what?
soon as I get here.
It's funny how I looked at the paper.
I know.
So, okay, and I apologize.
Okay.
Motion made to adjourn by Mrs. Springs, seconded by Vice Chair Sandy. All in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye. Bye.
Dr. Coleman, I got to hear you say aye. No, Joe.
Hi.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? None?
Oh, I
Any, well, you can't stand that. So meeting adjourned at 7:53 PM. Thank you, everyone. I know.
That's easy to do.